Steve Palazzolo. He's on with us pretty much every year. Yeah, Steve was at PFF for a while. Now he's at the 33rd team. His podcast, Check the Mic. And Steve joins us now again. How you doing, Steve?
Thanks. I appreciate the tradition, seeing you guys every year.
Yeah, got to do it. How do we say? Are you scouting or analytics?
A little of both. I like to blend both. Watch the film and then, add up all the numbers and make good decisions off the numbers,
Okay.
That's how I like to do it.
So, like at PFF, you were doing like scouting service kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, like PFF I called it production-based scouting, right? So you're watching every player and putting grades on them from a production standpoint. And then, when you have that data set, you can, again, make better decisions off that, which I still believe in. I still believe that's a great way to evaluate players.
So do you still do that?
I don't do that necessarily, but I use data to, study the game, basically.
So listen, this is how we do.
You're trying to call me a nerd. You called me a nerd last year.
Exactly.
And
but you're really big. So
but let me just tell you, right, we got to be careful. We can't say it to your face.
Right.
The stats and the analytics, stats are for losers, and the analytics are for the propeller heads who've never played and don't even watch the game, who got no use for them, unless we're trying to really bury someone.
Yes.
And he ranks 133 out of 136 corners. Then we bring up the PFF ranking.
That's right.
Yes, exactly right. In fact, I'm good at that.
That's the best way. That's the best way to use PFF. PFF and stats, they are for losers unless they make my point. That is exactly the way to use it.
That's right. Stats are for losers unless they suit your agenda. Then they're facts.
Well done.
So now, do you spend, is your scouting or your system more based on what's going to happen in this game or more about prospects coming up, like, the draft, or is it all of that?
Yeah, I don't have anything in particular myself. I actually have a consulting service for NFL and college teams now. I could plug that right now. But I think I like to look at all data that makes sense and just attach it to film the same way an NFL team would, right? So they're doing free agency evaluations right now, draft evaluations right now. And I think when you have a rich enough data set to go back, especially there's 10 years of PFF data on college players, it's pretty good for helping to project players. So that's what I like to focus on. I like to take that data, synthesize it, focus on what actually projects forward, and then use that in decision-making and evaluating how well teams do actually make their decisions.
Okay. So, all that said, does this particular Chiefs team this year make your job difficult? Because there's this sorcery going on with the Chiefs that, and I mean this in the nicest way possible about that team, even though I don't like them and I'm sick about them, there's like magic going on with them. There's things you can't quantify, whether it's, field goals getting doinked or Isaiah Likely's toe, being a half-inch out in that first game of the season.
Yeah, they screw everything up. Because usually you would say, turnovers are tough to bank on and you can't win all these close games, and then they just do. They had 5 straight weeks where there was a game-winning field goal attempt, and they weren't even making the field goal attempts, and they won all 5 of them, right? It was like the Raiders, or this team was in position to kick a game-winning field goal, and they're blocking it, and the Raiders are fumbling. It's crazy. But so I just say they're calibrated to win by 3, right? They play well enough to win by 3. That's how the Chiefs play. That's my summation of that team.
They're greasy.
Yeah.
So specific players. So I know you do a lot of college stuff coming into pro, but pro rankings. So not Drake May. Where would he rank in your PFF rankings? Where is he strong? Where is he deficient? And I know I guess you don't quite do that anymore, but approximate it.
Yeah, I think you have to look at it through the lens of encouraging for a rookie, and then you take the circumstances. We all saw, like the eye test matches what you see. The Patriots statistically had one of the worst offensive lines, and you felt that, right? He's under pressure all the time, and you kind of saw this A/B analysis of Jacoby Brissett running the offense and Drake May running the offense, so he was good. It was encouraging for a rookie. I don't know if he's QB 20 or 25 as a rookie, but I'd feel pretty good about him going forward as soon as you get, 3 or 4 more starters up front, 2 or 3 more playmakers outside, and, I think he's shown enough that he's a guy to build around.
Where's the concerns with him? Where are the weak points?
He made 1 or 2 bad decisions per game. What I would consider a turnover-worthy play. You throw into a safety. Of course, a Tennessee game where you're just kind of chucking it up into a double coverage in overtime. So I think you got to cut back on those. But he meshes that with the special, right? 1 or 2 times a game, he makes a special play. I was surprised by his legs. I think, averaging over 9 yards a carry or wherever he ended up as a scrambler. Has to stop taking the hits, of course. But I think cut down on some of those bad decisions, clean that up, and he's got some big playability.
Steve Palazzolo, 33rd team again, formerly PFF, scout, tout, analyst. Where did you have Jalen Polk coming into the draft, and did you assess that grade now, and what do you blame his disappearance on?
All right, here we go. I've got a I got my own little draft model and projection and everything, and I kind of look at it as like a yes or no. You're either above a threshold or you're below. He was well below my threshold. He was
coming out last year.
So
you didn't like the pick.
So if I had my own 0 to 100 scale, which I do, he's about a 40, and so that's for me. He's a 40.
So you nailed it.
Yeah, and like Lad McConkey was over 80, and so the way I've looked at it historically, if you in my system you draft over 80s, you're doubling and tripling your hit rates. So I've got a condensed group of players that I like to look at every year.
So when they were on the board there and they traded down and then the Chargers took McConkey, you said mistake in real time.
Most of the, but then that battles against my other analytical self, which is trade down, get more picks, get more shots at it, because it's all going to be, there's a little bit of unknown in there. So theoretically, the idea of moving down and picking up picks was fine, but yeah, the player that they got certainly didn't agree with it.
Why did you only have a 40 on Jalen Polk?
It's all production based and everything that so I like to look at data and things that have projected well historically across the NFL.
Specifically with him.
Yeah. With him, the catch rate was low. He only had one or 2 years of pretty good production, not elite production at Washington. So he was just okay. I wasn't expecting him to struggle. I haven't seen many receivers struggle as badly as he did. Just pure. There was a little bit of mental. Every time he had a chance to catch the ball, he wasn't catching it.
Okay, but so put the scale into context. You said a 40. Like I hear 40 out of 100, and I say
it's not a school.
Sucks. It's not a pick him for.
It's not a school test necessarily, but I just looked again. I look at like 10 years of data, and there's a top 20th percentile of players that I think historically, if you pull from that group of players, position aside, you're going to have better hit rates, and he was just well outside of that.
Okay, Patriots have the 4th pick in this coming draft. You see where they are. You see who's available. You know what their needs are. What kind of players are available that have grades, dare I say, above 80? We don't want another 40 there.
They're all in the range. I think all the guys you're talking about, Abdul Carter is in the range. Travis Hunter at 2 different positions is in that range. Will Campbell is in there. But as I was saying on the other show earlier this week, they're going to measure his arms, right? And if it's under 33, it's a big no-no for an offensive tackle. So we'll see what happens there. But
33 is the number.
That's usually the cutoff. It's not a shirt size, but it's arm length, right?
Sure.
And
which is from, because we've
the middle of the back.
We've done this now, Steve. They started at the back of the middle of basically your spine.
Yeah.
Okay, from your spine to the tip of your finger.
Right. And so under 33 is generally the cutoff for tackle.
What if you got short arms but long fingers? That doesn't really exist. You know what I mean?
I told you got to retract your scapula in a certain way so that you get an extra half inch or something. So there's certain ways to trick the system.
Is it really? And that's not. And this is not a sleeve measurement. This is
it's not
arm.
like I have 38-inch sleeve or whatever, but I have 35-inch arms in the NFL's measure. So it's a little different. It's not like what you're used to buying a shirt with,
Okay, so the sleeve measurement's actually longer.
It is.
Oh.
It is. Yeah.
So if this guy has 33-inch arms, that's like me. This guy's they're going to put me at tackle?
Now you have Joe Tooney this weekend with 32-plus playing left tackle for the Chiefs. There's a starting right tackle for the Tampa Bay Bucks, Luke Gedeke, who played guard, was terrible. They moved him to tackle. He was good. It's not like it's impossible, but when you're picking number 4 overall, you want to make sure you tick all those boxes.
Interesting.
So that's what Will Campbell's going to be dealing with in 2 weeks here at the Combine.
Short-armed Will Campbell.
That's going to be the big one, his arm length.
Yeah, but other than that, I think he's a really good player and top 5 to 10 type of prospect.
How about Mason Graham?
Love Mason Graham. Disruptor, I think from a positional value standpoint, I think it's a little bit tougher to take a defensive tackle versus, say, an edge rusher or a tackle. That's where the Pats are deficient, right? Offensive tackles, playmakers, pass rushers, they're probably going to have to focus on that, but Mason Graham's an outstanding player.
Okay. Do your algorithms spit out a winner in this game on Sunday?
No, not necessarily. I mean, who's going to predict the Chiefs? Like I said, Chiefs by 3 is probably the thing. I know everybody in New England's rooting for the Eagles. They're going to have to get that Saquon long run, force a weird turnover from Mahomes, but it's probably Chiefs by 3, right?
Yeah, feels that way.
Like the Eagles, they're coming down with illnesses at the hotel and stuff, right? This always happens.
Okay, but just to go back to something Murray said, on paper, Philadelphia is the better team, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the one thing about Kansas City, though, is when they got Marquise Brown back later in the season, the offense has been much better. And they came into the season, they wanted Marquise Brown, who runs 4.3, Xavier Worthy, who runs under 4.3. They wanted to stretch the field. They hadn't had those guys on the field together all season until right around Christmas. And since Christmas or so, they've been much better offensively. So that's the thing, is Kansas City they survived, I think, a lot of injuries, and now they're like the healthiest team in the NFL. So it's almost not fair to say, hey, they almost lost to the Raiders. They're at full strength like no other team in the NFL at this point.
Steve Palazzolo, 33rd team, the Check the Mic podcast. Steve, always a pleasure. Always good to see you this time of year.
Always. Thank you, guys.
Okay, take care.
Good seeing you, Steve.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.